When you hear the name Albert Einstein, what's the first word that comes to mind? Probably genius, right? But behind the man who completely redrew our map of the universe, there was also a person deeply haunted by what his own brilliance helped bring into the world. So let's get into this incredible story of scientific triumph and profound personal regret.
We really have to start right here with what he called the one great mistake of his life. This quote just gets right to the heart of his torment. It was this knowledge that his work, even indirectly, played a part in creating the atomic bomb, and that single regret would follow him for the rest of his days.
So how on earth did this happen? I mean, how did a lifelong, committed pacifist get tangled up with the most destructive weapon ever created? To really get that, you first have to understand the sheer scale of his genius.
And for that, we've got to go back in time to a single, unbelievable year. A year where Einstein wasn't some famous professor. Nope, he was just a humble clerk working in a patent office who was about to turn the entire world of physics on its head.
1905. It's known as his Annus Mirabilis, which is just Latin for miracle year. And believe me, it was. He published 4 papers that didn't just push science forward. They launched 2 entirely separate revolutions that still define physics today. What's so amazing is that before this, atoms were pretty much just a theoretical idea, a useful concept. But Einstein's work on the random jiggling of particles in water gave us the first real, tangible proof that atoms were physically real. He essentially made the invisible visible.
In another paper, he figured out something called the photoelectric effect. He came up with this radical idea that light isn't just a wave, as everyone believed. He said it also comes in these little, discrete packets of energy, particles that we now call photons. And that idea became a cornerstone for the whole weird world of quantum mechanics.
And yep, that brilliant insight, the one that helped kickstart quantum theory, is what officially earned him the highest honor in science.
But here's the twist most people don't know. His Nobel Prize wasn't for relativity. Yeah, you heard that right. At the time, his theories on gravity and space-time were still considered way too out there, too unproven. So the Nobel Committee kind of played it safe and honored him for his quantum work instead. Kind of ironic, considering he'd later argue against quantum mechanics for years.
And of course, 1905 also gave us this, the most famous equation in history. It came out of his theory of special relativity and revealed a shocking, fundamental truth about the universe. That mass and energy are just 2 sides of the same coin. They're interchangeable, and that simple idea holds almost unimaginable power.
Now, as revolutionary as 1905 was, Einstein was just getting warmed up. He then spent the next 10 years cooking up his true masterpiece, a completely new vision of gravity that would redefine our understanding of the entire cosmos.
So, in 1915, he finally unveiled his crown jewel, the general theory of relativity. And it was mind-bending. He argued that gravity isn't some mysterious force pulling us down. Instead, he said that massive objects, like the Earth, literally bend and warp the very fabric of reality, what he called space-time. That curvature is what we feel as gravity.
So this is the huge leap, right? Newton saw space as a static stage where gravity was just an actor. But Einstein showed that space-time itself is an active participant in the cosmic dance. Matter tells space-time how to curve, and the curve of space-time tells matter how to move.
And this wasn't just a pretty idea. It made these incredible, testable predictions. It explained a weird wobble in Mercury's orbit that had baffled astronomers. It predicted that starlight would literally bend as it passed the sun, which was confirmed during an eclipse in 1919 and made him a global superstar overnight. And it predicted something else, something that would take another 100 years to prove.
And this just shows you the sheer power of his vision. Einstein predicted that huge cosmic events, like 2 black holes colliding, would send out ripples through space-time itself. Well, it took exactly 100 years, but in 2015, we finally detected those gravitational waves, proving his vision of a dynamic, living universe was right all along.
But this same mind, a mind that could literally see a century into the future, was also plagued by doubt and what he later saw as major errors. And not just moral ones, but scientific ones too.
You see, his own math was telling him the universe had to be either expanding or contracting. But that just seemed crazy at the time. Everyone knew the universe was static. So thinking his math had to be wrong, he added a little fudge factor, the cosmological constant, to hold the universe still. When astronomers later proved the universe is expanding, Einstein supposedly called that little addition his biggest blunder. And then there was his famous distrust of quantum mechanics, the very field he helped create. He just couldn't accept a universe built on randomness and probability. This famous line right here captured his deep belief that there had to be a more predictable reality underneath it all, and that stance slowly but surely isolated him from the next generation of physicists.
That resistance to quantum theory led him down a pretty lonely scientific path. For the last decades of his life, he chased after a unified field theory, trying to unite gravity and electromagnetism while pretty much ignoring all the new quantum discoveries. Because of that, what he hoped would be his ultimate triumph is now mostly seen as a scientific dead end.
And that brings us back to the regret that went way beyond scientific theory, the one that truly haunted him. A moral choice, made in a time of incredible fear.
You have to remember, throughout his life, Einstein was a fierce, outspoken pacifist. He truly believed that violence and war were a poison, a total failure of humanity.
But then the world caught fire. Hitler rose to power. Then German scientists discovered nuclear fission. Suddenly, the nightmare scenario was on the table. What if the Nazis built an atomic bomb? In 1939, a group of scientists convinced the world's most famous pacifist that he had to act. Einstein signed a letter to President Roosevelt, warning him of the danger and urging the United States to get its own atomic research program going. That letter was a key spark that helped ignite the Manhattan Project, and the result was Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
He never worked on the bomb project himself, and he was horrified by its use on civilians. But for the rest of his life, he was tormented by his small but crucial role in starting it all, calling it the one great mistake of his life.
So we're left with this incredible, complicated legacy, a mind that could grasp the very geometry of the cosmos, but a man who couldn't escape the moral weight of his own ideas. Einstein gave us a new universe, but it came with a dark shadow, forcing us all to ask a really tough question. What is the true weight of genius?